The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zethkar's words echoed through the crystalline dome. For 3,000 years, the assembled species had maintained their pact of silence, their unspoken agreement to never utter that forbidden designation. The very mention of it sent ripples of fear through delegates representing over 200 worlds. The Terrans? Whispered Council Prime Velthara, her 6 eyes wide with ancient terror. You speak of the Terrans? Dr. Elena Vasquez stood alone in the center of the vast chamber, her simple blue jumpsuit stark against the elaborate robes and biomechanical suits of the alien delegates. She had requested this emergency session, though none of them understood. Why a representative from the remote Sol system would dare address the council directly? Yes, Elena said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic design. I speak of the Terrans, of humans, of my people. A collective gasp rippled through the assembly. Several delegates began frantically inputting commands into their translation matrices as if hoping they had misunderstood. The Vorthan representative's tentacles writhed in distress, while the silicon-based Christex forms flickered with agitated light patterns. Zethkar, his scaled hide shifting from green to deep purple with anxiety, raised a clawed hand. Impossible. The Terrans they were contained, quarantined. The barrier holds. Elena smiled, a simple human expression that somehow made the temperature in the chamber seem to drop several degrees. The barrier fell 2 weeks ago. The chaos that erupted was unlike anything in the Council's recorded history. Delegates leaped from their seats, some fleeing toward the exits, others frantically activating emergency communication devices. The methane breathers' environmental suits began venting stress chemicals, while the energy beings known as the luminals flickered between visible and ultraviolet spectrums in panic. Order! Order! Council Prime Velthara's voice boomed through the chamber's amplification system. Slowly, reluctantly, the delegates returned to their positions, though many kept their escape routes clearly mapped. Elena waited patiently, her hands clasped behind her back. When the chamber finally quieted, she continued, as if nothing had happened. You all remember the stories, don't you? The legends your ancestors passed down. How the Terrans appeared in the galaxy 5,000 years ago, spreading across star systems like wildfire. How they took hostile worlds and made them gardens. How they turned dying stars into power sources and dead planets into thriving colonies. The insectoid queen's translator crackled to life. They were monsters. They consumed everything. Entire species fled before them. Fled before us, Elena corrected gently. And why? Because we were different. Because we adapted. Because we survived. She gestured to the holographic display at the chamber's center, which activated to show historical records. Grainy images of human colonies, ships, and cities stretching across impossible landscapes. Your ancestors called us the Devourers, the endless hunger, the species that cannot die. You created elaborate myths about our savagery, our relentless expansion. You convinced yourselves that we were demons from the void itself. Ambassador Zethkar's voice shook. Were you not? The records show a species that refused to accept limitations, Elena interrupted. We were explorers, scientists, builders. Yes, we expanded rapidly. Yes, we terraformed worlds others considered uninhabitable. Yes, we survived in environments that would kill most of you within minutes. But we were never conquerors. She paused, letting that sink in. We offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, joint scientific ventures, and in response, you formed the first galactic alliance, not to explore the stars together, but to contain us, to build a barrier around our space and pray we never broke free. The Chamber's environmental systems worked over time as hundreds of different atmospheric requirements strained against each other. Fear had a smell, Elena realized, and it was universal. For 3,000 years, you told yourselves we were gone, extinct, contained behind technology you barely understood, fed by power sources you didn't dare examine too closely. You built your civilization on the assumption that humanity would never again walk among the stars. Council Prime. Velthara's voice was barely above a whisper. Why are you here? What do you want? Elena's smile widened, and for a moment, the assembled delegates saw something in her eyes that their ancestors had written about in hushed, terrified tones. Not malice, not anger, but something far more unsettling, infinite possibility. We've been busy these past 3 millennia. While you built your council and your rules and your careful little territories, we've been learning, growing, evolving. Do you know what we discovered during our isolation? She activated another holographic display. This one showed star charts, not of local space, but of distant galaxies, each marked with a simple symbol. We found others. Thousands of species across dozens of galaxies, civilizations that make your council look like children playing with toys, some friendly, some hostile, some so alien that communication required decades of effort. The display zoomed in on one particular galaxy, showing massive structures orbiting entire star clusters, and some that are coming here. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the Chamber's life support systems seemed to hold their breath. In approximately 18 months, a force that has conquered 17 galaxies will arrive in this one. They call themselves the Architects, and they rebuild entire galactic neighborhoods according to their design. Your species, your worlds, your cultures, all raw materials for their grand project. Elena deactivated the display and looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as possible. We could have stayed behind our barrier, could have watched from safety as they swept through your space, could have negotiated with them afterward. They're not unreasonable, just thorough. She walked slowly toward the Council Prime's raised platform. Instead, we're here. Because despite everything, despite your fear, despite the quarantine, despite 3,000 years of being spoken of only in whispers, we still remember what we once offered you. Elena stopped at the base of the platform and looked up at Velthara. Partnership. Not conquest, not subjugation, not absorption. Partnership. We have 18 months to prepare this galaxy's defenses. 18 months to turn your scattered worlds into something that can stand against a force that has never known defeat. The chamber was so quiet that the quantum fluctuations in the air became audible as a soft hissing. But first, Elena said, her voice carrying the weight of millennia, you're going to have to do something your people haven't done in 3,000 years. She spread her arms wide, addressing the entire assembly. You're going to have to say our name. Council Prime. Velthara's 6 eyes met Elena's 2, and in that moment, the weight of history shifted. Human, she whispered. Louder. Human, Velthara said, her voice carrying through the chamber. All of you, Elena commanded, and her voice carried an authority that transcended species barriers. Say it. Human, came the response, tentative. At first, then stronger. Human! They roared, 3,000 years of suppressed terror transforming into something else entirely. Elena nodded, satisfied. Good. Now let's save your galaxy.